Good afternoon. Today is Friday, December 9th. I'm Monty Allison.
And I'm Colin Yake with this week's TCTV News Update. The death toll in the December 2nd warehouse fire in Oakland, California has risen to 36, making it one of the deadliest fires in the city's history. Around 100 people were reported to have been inside the building when the fire began. The warehouse was home to nearly 25 artists and was referred to as the ghost ship. City officials warned owners of the building about dangerous trash buildup and potential fire hazards just last month. Criminal charges are currently pending against the building's lease owner, Derek Ion Almena. The leader of a North Caucasus ISIS branch was killed in a special operation organized by Russian Federal Security Forces in collaboration with the Ministry of Interior. Rustam Magomedovich Azeldarov, referred to as Abu Muhammad, and four militiants close to him were killed in an exchange of fire with government forces. Security forces enclosed a residence where the militiants were hiding during negotiations to surrender. The militiants fired automatic weapons and government forces fired back. A fire in the Regent Plaza Hotel in Karachi, Pakistan killed 11 people and left another 75 injured. Fire department officials were at the scene investigating the situation. After the blaze was under control, Dr. Simi Jamali, who heads the emergency room at Jinnah Hospital close to the hotel, said the deaths were caused by suffocation and all injuries were linked to respiratory problems.
A fake news story led to a potentially dangerous situation at a pizza shop in Washington, D.C. area this past Sunday. A 28-year-old gunman identified as Edward Welch from the Salisbury, North Carolina, entered the Comet Ping Pong pizza shop and fired a rifle inside of the building. According to authorities, Welch was motivated by an online conspiracy that the pizza shop was tied to a children abuse ring. Employees have been reporting threats against them for weeks since scandal first arose. This incident has since earned the name the Pizzagate scandal. No one was harmed in the incident. The man who has been the center of the internet jokes in recent weeks may be the next Democratic presidential nominee in 2020. Current Vice President Joe Biden revealed to reporters on Monday that he may be running for president in the next election. He neither confirmed nor denied the possibility, but instead said, "I'm not committing to run. I'm not committing to anything. I learned a long time ago that fate has a strange way of intervening." If he makes it to the White House, Biden will be the oldest person ever to serve as president of the United States at age 78. Brazil's government is proposing to fixing the minimum retirement age at 65 as part of the overall to a pension system many say is unsustainable. As of today, Brazilians have the option of retiring based on the number of years they have worked. And many retire in their mid-50s. But a bad recession and the government hopes a pension reform will relieve pressure on the public finances and help stimulate growth. Thiel's International Education Week features an opportunity for students to sample sweet treats from around the world. TCTV's Rob Thompson covered the event. We'll show you this and more during the break. Stay tuned and updates in sports and entertainment when we return.
Favorite movie crafts, music crafts.
For International Education Week on campus is to promote cultural awareness and exchange among students and staff and faculty. So we do a bunch of events, some that are passive, like the candy buffet, or presentations, just to really educate each other and inform each other about different cultures and countries, to promote study abroad, and to strengthen friendships for our international students on campus.
I don't want to go. Those are so good. They're chewy and they're yummy. They're like Japanese starburst, basically.
All right, great. my judgment's known to fade. Once built a steamboat in a meadow, 'cause I'd forgotten how to sail. I know the runners want to tell you there ain't no cowboy in my hair. So now he's buried by the daisies, so I could stay the tallest man in your eyes, babe. I sense a spy up in the chimney. From all the evidence I'll burn, I guess I'll read it in the smoke now, and soon to ashes I'll return. I know the spy is going to tell you there's not my flag up in the boat. So now he's buried by the lilies, so I could stay forevermore in your eyes, babe. I sense a leak inside my phone now, from all the lies that I have told. I know he has your private number, and soon he'll make that vicious call. I know the leak is going to tell you there ain't no puppy in your league. So now he'll fertilize the roses, so I could stay the king you see in your eyes, babe. In your eyes, babe.
Per court documents obtained by E! News, the Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt's 6 children will remain in Jolie's custody. Pitt will continue to have periodic visitations with the kids while also attending weekly therapeutic sessions. In other news, earlier in November, Pitt was cleared of child abuse allegations by the Los Angeles County Department of Children and Family Services. Lady Gaga has revealed that she suffers from post-traumatic stress disorder. Almost exactly 2 years ago, Gaga opened up to the public about being raped at the age of 19. Lady Gaga has been searching for ways to heal and has found the kindness is the best way. Gaga states, "But the kindness that's been shown to me by doctors as well as my family and my friends, it's really saved my life." There has been a shared kindness campaign created and partnered by Lady Gaga's Born This Way Foundation. Today and NBC Universal and for children that are not just homeless or in need, but also for trauma survivors. Derek Ian Almina, the manager of Oakland, California warehouse that went up in flames that's killing at least 36 people, defended his role on the tragedy. Almina stated, "I am here to say one thing. I am incredibly sorry, and that everything that I did was to make this a stronger and beautiful community and bring people together." The warehouse was open for artists who did not have anywhere to go and were in need of shelter.
At the start of the week, the College Football Playoff Committee decided that Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, and Washington are the 4 teams that are in the college playoffs. Arguments are occurring that the top 4 teams are the wrong teams in the playoffs. Before championship weekend, reports were saying that Penn State would make the top 4 if they won, and with their win, they were still left short, landing them at number 5. With the conclusion of Week 13, the Dallas Cowboys were the first team in the NFL to clinch their playoff berth. Heading into Week 14, they have a really good shot to clinch a home field advantage too. As we start to talk about first round bye, the NFC East is still on the line. The Cowboys have to win Sunday night against Eli Manning and the Giants in New York. If the Cowboys beat the Giants, they would be up 4 games in the division with only 3 games left. The former Kansas City Chief player Joe McKnight was shot and killed on December 1st. Police said the incident appeared to be a road rage incident in the Tarrytown district of New Orleans. The suspect accused of the murder of former player was arrested for manslaughter, and charges could carry up to 40 years in prison. However, Ronald Gasser, the suspect, has been released from custody as the charges against him have not been filed. Finals week is just around the corner. Stay tuned for the library's extended hours schedule.
Welcome to the Langenheim Memorial Library at Thiel College. I'm Alan Morrill, the director of the library. We're getting ready for finals and the end of the semester time, which means the library will be extending our hours, so you'll have a little extra time to study. On the last week of class, we will be open on midnight hours on December 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. We'll have some regular hours that weekend, but we'll also begin extended hours on December 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, and Friday the 16th. Since there are finals on Saturday the 17th, we will also be open that day so that you'll be able to study a little bit before your final exams. Get plenty of rest and study, and good luck on your finals.
is the purpose of the Spider-Man posters and everything?
So students in the social psychology class have picked a real-world issue, something that they're passionate about and something that they want to address, and they're using concepts that we discovered or that we talked about in class throughout the semester, and they're using that to develop an intervention to try to address that problem from a social psychology perspective, adding a little bit of a Spider-Man twist on it, so a fun and engaging way to kind of learn about the issues in class.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you.
And good luck.
Go, Web! Fly! Up, up, and away, Web! Shazam! Go! Go! Go, Web, go! Tally ho.
A domestic disturbance call on Wednesday turned into a shooting in Jefferson Township in Washington County, PA. State troopers shot 20-year-old Stephen Garrett Ward after he charged them with a weapon. Ward was flown to a Pittsburgh area hospital in critical condition after the incident. Ward's mother indicated he was out of control, damaging property and being physical with family members. State Trooper Stephanie Lucas stated the police have yet to state what type of weapon Ward was possessing when he allegedly charged the officers. Lucas also stated both officers are on administrative duty while the Washington County District Attorney's Office investigates the shooting. 30-year-old Anthony Hurd was arrested after allegedly leaving 5 young children home alone before performing an armed robbery at Brookline Kogos. Hurd then returned to the crime scene just minutes later as a customer to buy cigar wrappers and was quickly arrested. Officers were questioning the store clerk when Hurd walked into the store. The clerk identified Hurd as the suspect. Hurd was questioned by police and stated that he was just shopping and to buy a blunt and he needed to get home because he had small children who were alone. Hurd was taken to Allegheny County Jail and charged with felony robbery, firearms violation, and misdemeanor counts of endangering the welfare of children. Greenville High School students was evacuated around noon on Tuesday morning after receiving a possible bomb threat. Superintendent Mark Ferrari stated that the students found a written threat in the school. Students and faculty received an all clear from authorities and returned to the building just before 2 p.m. I have just an extreme level of appreciation for help of the administration and first responders, the community, and their support. Ferrara stated police are still investigating who's placed the threat, but say they have some very solid leads. This marks the 3rd threat the district has received this year.
The 64th Annual Christmas Festival was held this weekend at Thiel's Passman Center, marking Professor of Music Dr. Michael Bray's 21st festival and his last. The festival is named Go Tell It on the Mountain. The Thiel Choir performed alongside with the handbell ringers in some beautiful pieces such as What's Sweeter Music and O Come Emmanuel.
Hi, I'm CJ Skolnekovich here today with Jess Espinoza.
And we're going to ask her a few questions about today's performance. So how do you think today's performance went?
I think today's performance went really well. Everyone did a really good job.
Yeah, there was a pretty good outcome. There was a couple hundred people, it looked like.
There was a lot of people. I was a little nervous.
How long have you been in the choir?
I just started because I'm a freshman, so since September.
Also, how many hours and days a week did you guys practice getting ready for this concert alone?
We practiced a lot. It was very intense hours, but
It was all worth it.
yeah, it was all worth it.
All right, well, thank you again.
Okay,
And
you're welcome.
we'll be ready to see you guys again next year.
And handbell choir practiced all semester for this festival. Dr. Bray said his favorite part of the festival is decorating Passament with the students in hopes that Christmas might be a little brighter for those who attended. This past Tuesday, students in the social psychology class taught by Dr. Gallagher presented their Spider-Man projects to students, faculty, and staff. The Spider-Man project was a semester-long project. Students picked a social issue, researched it, and then presented why it was posing an issue on today's society. The students then had to come up with solutions to the issue. TCTV interviewed Dr. Gallagher about her feelings on the finished projects.
I'll be there for a while.
Hi, I'm Jessica Lavelle. I'm Melissa Mondel. We are talking about drugs in adolescence. It's like taking big social problems, big interventions for the hour. We're doing a little this program on drugs, specifically used in age 13 to like 17. And they're made up of fun, don't really this generational stereotypes. Got really creative with it. And here we got a picture just showing why it's an important issue. It starts in public schools and high schools where they start changing money into drugs and they start with something else like marijuana. People don't take it serious, but being something like heroin or prescription pills that they're addicted to and they end up in the hospital. And it's a really big issue, and that's why we're looking at this project.
Thiel Phi Theta Phi fraternity held their 47th annual walkathon for Children's Hospital this past weekend. The fraternity walked over 126-mile trek from Thiel to Pittsburgh. They want to raise enough money so that no child will ever be denied care. This year, the Phis raised over $20,000, which was well above their goal. That's truly some amazing work. Thiel College students can now earn their undergraduate and law degrees in just 6 years with a new agreement between Thiel College and Duquesne University School of Law. Students are eligible to participate in the program beginning this academic year. It will be a 3-3 program with 3 years at Thiel and 3 years at Duquesne. Once a student has finished up their 3 years at Thiel, they are guaranteed admission to Duquesne. This will be a great program for Thiel and its students. TV has covered the presidential election over the course of the fall semester. News production student Garrett England follows up here with a report on the experiences of first-time voters.
This year's election results have caused a buzz across the nation, with many college-educated first-time voters running to the polls to make a difference. Some first-time voters were rewarded by voting for Donald Trump, while many others were left unhappy after voting for Hillary Clinton. To get a perspective on voting experience and the scope of the entire election, TCTV reporter spoke to Assistant Political Science Professor Michael Morgan, who reflected on his first-time voter experience this year's election and why it is important to vote. When asked about his first-time voter experience in 2008, Morgan stated,
"This was the first time a lot of Thiel students could vote, and I can see why it would be either a very exciting, perhaps very discouraging time to vote. And I remember my first time voting back in the 2008 election when Barack Obama ran against John McCain. And things at that time seemed like they couldn't get more heated than at that point in time. But again, this year has been very different in a lot of ways. But it was interesting to see how the Republican Party was responding in 2008 to change versus what they did in 2016, where they embrace this message of change.
Professor Morgan's experience ties into this year's election, as both candidates in this year's election did not have terrific approval ratings. as well as the rhetoric between both sides being extremely heated for most of the election. Although his experience was 8 years ago, it is believed that his experience would tie in with experiences of this year's first-time voters. Professor Morgan then spoke about the scope of this year's election, stating that,
So this election is very unique in a lot of different ways, and for some it encouraged them to come out and vote for maybe the first time or maybe the first time in many years. It also encouraged a wave of newly registered voters to get out and get out the vote. It's interesting to see what this will do in the long term. Whether this will discourage voters or not in the future, we may have to wait and see. For those that were Trump supporters, this may encourage them to get out and want to vote again and again. For those that were Hillary supporters, it may depress some of them for a while. It may also motivate them to get out in even larger numbers in future elections.
this year's election was one for the history books and will change America forever. The election saw around the same turnout as it did 8 years ago, but saw a huge spike from the rural voters and decrease in urban voters, which was backed up by NPR.com, which produced a graph showing that Trump dominated the rural areas throughout the nation. Both demographics, as Professor Morgan said, made their decisions with reservations. But with every election, there are plenty of Americans who are eligible to vote but don't. With that said, we asked Professor Morgan to speak on the importance of voting.
So the question of whether or not to vote is a good one, and it's one that's becoming more interesting to consider, with a lot of folks are questioning the validity of using the Electoral College. The Electoral College was put into place really to kind of appease smaller states, those with smaller populations, from being dominated by urban centers. So it's interesting to see now, a few hundred years later, if the idea behind the Electoral College still holds. And if we would see a shift to a more popular vote kind of standard, it would be interesting to see what that would do to future elections. But in terms of whether or not you should vote, that is a personal decision. Some would advocate that it's a civic duty. Others would say that it's a rational choice, that their one vote won't matter. I can't claim that one is right and one is wrong. I really think it is down to a personal decision.
According to Heavy.com, 48.1%, or around 90 million people, did not vote. This is backed up by a graph produced by Politicus USA, which showed that the Democratic turnout for this year's election decreased by 10 million Americans. As Professor Morgan stated, it is important to remember that every vote matters and that it provides an opportunity, especially for younger voters, to have their voices heard. To have those voices heard, our Garrett England spoke to 2 Thiel College first-time voters, one of which was a Clinton supporter, Jordan Francis, and one Trump supporter, Drew Dellert, to get their experiences. Starting with Dellert, a Delaware Republican voter, when asked about his first-time voter experience, Dellert had this to say. Although I did not actually go to the polls because I voted out of state, I felt like I had some control of our nation's future, seeing as I supported President-elect Trump. I believe everyone our age should vote, regardless of who they support, because it is a way to have our generation's voice heard. Voting for the winning candidate does in fact make it easier to feel like there is a sense of control when voting. On the other hand, our Garrett England spoke to a Pennsylvania independent voter, Jordan Francis, who voted for the first time in this year's election. When asked about this year's election and his experience, Francis had this to say. I really did not like either candidate in this year's election, but I decided to support Mrs. Clinton in the end. I was slightly disappointed in the end result of the election, but since I had liked neither candidate, I can live with it. In my mind, people do not vote because this is the second time I can remember that the losing candidate won the popular vote and did not win the election. This kind of states that the Electoral College is really the only vote that matters. I think that it depends on how Trump does the next 4 years, whether I vote again or not. Whether or not they liked or disliked their experiences, first-time voters will always remember who they voted for this year.
I'm Kara Bussard with TVTC News. Today we're talking about the importance of student journalism. Today we're going to be interviewing Professor Nugent and Penn State student Lauren Davis after her article went pretty big in New York Times. First, we're going to start off in the studio with Professor Nugent. I'm here with Professor Nugent. professor of communications here at Thiel College. So can you tell me what you think the importance of student journalism is?
Sure. So I've had the pleasure of working with you and your classmates in television production class, for example, this semester. And one of the things that we cover is, on one hand, it's a class. It's a space for experimentation, learning, how to hone the craft. So there's definitely some leeway, learning curve, whatever you might have. But one of the things that I always try to bring us back to is professional standards and the access that you all have as journalists, as student journalists.
Next up, we have Lauren Davis. She's a Penn State student, and she wrote an article about how Penn State keeps memorializing Joe Paterno. Her article went huge and went to New York Times. Let's talk with her about what her experience was with that.
So, I am the opinions editor for the Daily Collegian, and we found out that Penn State was going to commemorate Joe Paterno, who's a former football coach for our university, in an email that the university sent out late Thursday night. It was sort of hidden among other promotions. And we decided to sort of change topics because the article you're referring to is the editorial. So it's like the board of editors' opinion that's sort of put out there with the paper every day. We actually already had one written, but we thought that this was more important. This was more pressing to the immediate student population, to us as both students and journalists, and it was something that we knew eventually larger news organizations were going to pick up on. And so we thought we should definitely capitalize on this and sort of put our voice out there, because our immediate thought once we found out that they were actually going to do this, it wasn't just a suggestion, was the fact that there had been no conversation about it on campus. No students were consulted. There was no dialogue around whether or not this was something that students wanted. It was just put out there. There was no explanation. There was no more information offered. And we thought that was frustrating in light of everything that obviously happened around Paterno and around the football program. We decided to take a very strong position against it and just say, here's how we're feeling, and this is where we're at.
So how did you guys feel when that did get so big? What did that make you feel like when you appeared in New York Times and all the other media?
For me personally, it was a bit shocking. I'm just a junior at college trying to make it through her classes and also do the paper, so it seemed very uncharacteristic of what I expected my college experience to be like, but at the same time, it was really rewarding to know that people were paying attention. People were reading what we wrote, paying attention to what we had to say, and actually putting stock in it, and not just as the student newspaper at Penn State, but just as a student journalist. The fact that even if not everyone agreed with my opinion, there were people out there that accepted and were in support of the student voice, of the fact that even though we're 18, 19, 20-year-old college students, we're still allowed to have an opinion, and they are entirely valid, no matter what they might be.
Thank you again.
Of course. Best of luck to both of you.
There you have it, the importance of student journalism. It's an important tool for us to use. It gets the student body voice out there rather than the university or the college. It's really important, and it gets us on the right track to a new job. I'm Kara Bussard with TCTV News. Good night.
Thanks for watching this week's TCTV News. I'm Monty Allison.
And I'm Colin Yake, reminding you to visit our YouTube channel, Thiel TCTV, to view this newscast and other student productions.